It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh,
what do you got?
just some of the funniest stuff this week. Just stuff that I've been reading.
Okay.
All right, one I saw Britt Hume actually made reference to it yesterday on X. Britt Hume from Fox News.
Okay.
And it was from commentary.org and the scandal of the Biden tell-all books.
All right.
And it first, let me just see who it was written by very quickly here. Written by Tevi Troy. The scandal of the Biden tell-all books. Now they tell us. And it's hilarious because it goes through and, in a serious way, talks about the books were written about Hillary Clinton and her failed campaign.
Yeah, okay.
And it says, here's what happened behind the scenes. And it said people learned a ton of new stuff. It's like people bought the book and went, whoa, didn't know this, didn't know that, didn't know this, didn't know that. And he goes, fast forward for today. And all the books that are out there, Fight, Uncharted, Original Sin. These books reveal that Joe Biden was badly diminished and in no shape to run a presidential campaign or serve as president. And now here's where it starts getting funny. The authors claim to be teaching us something new. What they are really doing, though, is telling us what we already knew, but that they are only now willing to tell us. Tapper, in particular, has come under fire since he claims he did not realize the extent of Biden's decline during the campaign.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
As he told Piers Morgan in one of his non-apology apologies, I feel like I owe the American people an acknowledgement that I wish I had covered the story better.
Yeah.
Not only did the public see in Biden what Tapper did not see, but the public also saw Tapper as a participant in covering up the truth. During the Biden years, Tapper attacked and dismissed those who even raised the issue of Biden's age. The release of his book forced him to confront his own record during the book tour. When confronted about an interview in which he had berated Lara Trump for arguing that Biden was significantly diminished, Tapper told Megyn Kelly, "After we did the research for this book and I realized how bad the acuity issues were, I apologized to Trump." Thus, this is where it really starts getting funny to me. This is where I started really laughing out loud. Thus, according to Tapper, he had to do a deep dive to see and hear what a what a visually impaired and hearing impaired person could see and hear about the cognitively impaired Biden. Wow.
Yeah.
And even as Tapper spoke about the post-election research he did engage in, he did not manage to ferret out that Biden had an advanced stage of prostate cancer, something Biden's team put out on the eve of the Tapper-Thompson book release to distract it and generate sympathy for Biden. No one is reading these books with any measure of surprise that Biden wasn't there in private behind the scenes. That's because Biden wasn't there in front of the scenes either.
Yeah.
Wow. And it just goes through all of that, which I just found funny how it was the line, I think, about Tapper. Thus, according to Tapper, he had to do a deep dive to see and hear what a visually impaired and hearing impaired person could see and hear about the cognitively impaired Biden. I mean, Tapper came off as a complete idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Or a liar.
A liar.
And then the other story that got me just laughing. A couple of days ago, earlier this week in National Review, Jeffrey Blar with the I love the New York City mayoral race. He goes, only a longtime Chicago resident could fully appreciate the chaos and hopelessness of this context. And I understand when I worked at our great affiliate WLS many moons ago, I remember thinking to myself, wow, because I only was there a short time. I said,
Yeah.
man, I'm telling you, to work in that city, you had gold every day.
Oh, I can't
The
imagine.
city council stuff was just
I
absolutely.
can't imagine.
And could you imagine working there? Imagine, man. I mean, we just hit Brandon Johnson a little while ago, just focusing on the mayor.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last two mayors could fill a 10-hour show daily. But the craziness that you would hear, and it's the same here, but here's just a couple of sentences, and I'm skipping from paragraph to paragraph, but it's still hilarious as they talk about the choices. The Democratic mayoral primary approaches on June 24th. New York's current mayor, Eric Adams, is running for re-election as an independent. His hand was forced after a hapless tenure, a series of Biden-era federal indictments, and comically small-stakes foreign bribery, and a politically toxic intervention by the Trump Department of Justice. Adams has conceded to the reality that he is welcome within the New York City Democratic Party as an infestation of sewer rats. Thus, he had to abandon it to run on his own brand. Perhaps he is counting on the support of his lone remaining natural constituency, the Turkish government. With the Dems in disarray, it was time for an old foe to swoop down upon the confused city like the ghoulish creature he has been forever, Andrew Cuomo. Where to begin with him, whose third term in Albany was cut short in the summer of 21 by a torrent of sexual harassment allegations. He is a foul tyrant, notoriously vulgar and arrogant, a man of fundamentally low character with the facial expression of death's head. New Yorkers have known all of this for years, and they've made peace with it. In fact, they probably would have reelected him to a fourth term in 2022 had he not resigned, cursing New Yorkers with Kathy Hochul as a farewell gift. The general rap on Cuomo is that he is evil but competent.
At least he can get the job done. That's funny.
The general rap on Cuomo is that he is evil but competent, and understand that this is his candidacy's primary selling point. Vote for the scumbag. It's important. But this sort of appeal assumes far too much about the governor's record. The Andrew Cuomo I remember is a guy who facilitated a massacre of the state's senior citizens by forcing nursing homes to accept patients with COVID for months during the initial outbreak. That doesn't seem very competent to me at all. In fact, it seems like something he has never once properly answered or atoned for, and I doubt he ever will. Meanwhile, the liberals in New York, the progressives, hate Cuomo every bit as much as they hate Adams, and they've chosen to rally with their typical semi-religious fervor around state assembly person Zohan Mandami, the Indian-Ugandan Muslim son of a filmmaker and a Columbia University poli-science professor, might as well have been purpose-built by Soros-funded scientists in a lab to activate every fashionably progressive erogenous zone in city politics. Oh, my God, is that great writing?
You son of a filmmaker. Yeah, that's great.
He has thrilled crowds of educated, hyper-woke, young white women with his visions of a more equitable New York. He is a member of the Democratic Socialist of America. He calls for universal health care and the increased use of social workers as opposed to police. He promises to eliminate bus fares, open city-run grocery stores, and institute rent freezes. Do you even need to ask where he stands on the full spectrum of LGBT rainbows? He's so woke, his own biography is practically the living embodiment of a DEI ideal. On international affairs, something that actually matters for the mayor of New York, the world's most important city and the home of the United Nations, he is unspeakably awful. A vocal supporter of boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel that has plagued college campuses and academic institutions for the last 15 years, he's all for. He openly labels Israel's war with Gaza a genocide. Just yesterday in an interview, he refused to condemn the phrase, globalize the intifada, saying that when he hears those chants, what I hear is a desperate desire for equality and equal rights in standing up for Palestinian human rights.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and yes, he does not believe Israel has a right to exist as a Jewish state.
Yeah.
Wow. Those... He goes, yes, the New York mayoral race is exactly the sort of carnival of fools that I live for. You know, that's, if you want to know where the Democratic Party is going, and we've said this, look at what's happening in the cities.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Look what's happening in the cities, and look at the people that they're putting in.
Right.
And look, because you're looking, well, are there any new stars in these big cities that are running? Newsom, we see, he's trying to rehabilitate himself to run for president, but we all know where he stands. They can say what they want. He can sit there and go on is his podcast still going? Because I've heard nothing about it.
I haven't heard anything on his podcast.
Is the podcast over with now?
I haven't heard anything.
Did he realize my problem is not that I don't talk enough?
No, I don't think he's ever going to realize that. I don't think that's the issue. I haven't heard anything. Is he just having softballers on, and that's why it's not making any noise?
Yeah, there's no news on it at all. Except he's I understand the issues of the radical transgender movement. Yeah, but you don't do anything about it, and you vote the other way. So you don't. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, I mean, it's an indication. When you look, you look at it. Look at California. Adam Schiff as senator. Padilla. Good God.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is, I don't even have words to describe Padilla.
Yeah.
A child?
Yeah, it's a child. He is absolutely a child.
And I went in and disturbed. Nobody knew who I was, and I went up and I tried to totally derail the Department of Homeland Security secretary.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was screaming at her, and then they grabbed me and started escorting me. I fought back, and they threw me to the floor, and they hurt me. I got a boo-boo. I got a Padilla boo-boo.
He's got his little SpongeBob Band-Aid on.
Good God. I mean, what a child. And then you've got Newsom, and then you've got Karen Bass, and then you look at New York, and then you look at Brandon Johnson in Chicago. So if you wonder whether the Democratic voter says they want change, well, you would expect probably to see it in the cities, and you're not.
Yeah, right.
You're seeing the most incompetent children that you could possibly put into political office.
Yeah. It's bizarre. And they think
they're winning.
They think they're winning. I don't get it.
I just had to read from those because it's just when you probably will agree with this, we can say stuff and make the points, but when you sometimes read it and it's put in a different way, because we've hit all these points.
Yeah.
But I just find it really interesting. I can start reading and I just start laughing like crazy and go, I got to read that paragraph on the air.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think to myself, well, you and Eric, I've said the same thing with you on the air, just in a different way. And it's like, yeah, but it's still funny as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
It still opens up another door into what we're really dealing with.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, it's when we tear it down, I don't, again, they act as if there's no internet. There's no self-awareness, but there's no world awareness. You know what I mean? They don't understand the universe they live in. They truly don't. Which tells you what? They actually do believe the world revolves around them. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to change a brain that Because I'll say this, like with Padilla, Newsom, and we've talked about this before when it comes to California. I can see how you get that delusional inside your blue bubble. California's, the biggest blue bubble. So I can see how they get that. But, and Padilla, it's pretty much D.C., California. Well, either way, you're screwed. You're inside a blue bubble. You know what I mean? You're never going to see the real world. And that's why they have zero self-awareness. They really don't care because they think or they only care about that blue bubble. And many of them think it applies to them anywhere they go. Newsom found that out, I guess, maybe learned one lesson, maybe short-term lesson, when he tried to get on a debate stage with Governor DeSantis. How'd that work out?
I got smoked.
My God.
I have a suggestion for Democrats coming up next, 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
It's not just steers with projected record prices for this year and next, experiencing higher prices in USDA's June meat price reports.
Across the board, seeing strength in all of the species, so increasing our price forecasts this month.
World Agricultural Outlook Board Chair Mark Jekanowski starts with hogs in 2025.
We raised our hog price forecast by $1.75 per hundredweight to $67.40 per hundredweight. And then we carried some of that strength into next year as well. We raised our price forecast by 50 cents per hundredweight to $64 per hundredweight.
Similar price adjustments up month over month were reported for 2025 and 26 broiler and turkey price forecast, with the broiler price rise supported in part by the higher steer prices. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. One of the things, if I was a political consultant, I'm serious here, because nothing's worked for the Democrats. I think I would take what they did the other day. Remember, the Democrats did not show up at all. The Democratic senators did not show up when the Republicans had a committee session on Biden's cognitive abilities and the way the media and the Democrats covered it up. Nobody showed. I really think that the Democrats should consider saying nothing. Don't say anything.
About anything?
Don't say anything about anything for a while and see if that works. See if your favorability ratings for the entire summer, all the way through, take it all the way to October 1st and look at your favorability ratings. Say nothing. Don't hold any press conferences. Don't do anything. Just go into hiding and see if your favorability ratings go up. They're not going to do that, but I really wonder if they would go up.
Carville said it earlier this year. He told them the same thing. Now, his position was Trump and the Republicans will destroy themselves. But this is just to say, if you do nothing, you actually might see a bump in your favorability ratings. I'd love to see that happen.
Shut up.
I'd love to see that experiment play out.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, getting through just a couple of stories before we get out of here for the weekend. This is really interesting. Trump signals uncertainty over whether he will support GOP senators' push to boost the minimum wage. Holley has framed the minimum wage proposal as a populist position. Trump remains non-committal. He signaled he was not sure about whether or not he would support the recent proposal led by GOP Missouri Senator Josh Holley to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. I haven't seen it. I'd have to speak to Josh. He's a good friend of mine. Trump said, that's interesting that Josh did that. You have to think about that one. Alongside Democrat Vermont Senator Peter Welch, Holley introduced the Higher Wages for American Workers Act last week. If passed, the legislation would more than double the minimum wage. The federal minimum wage.
Right. Yeah.
So is that just going to die? You know, one thing, because remember, both Holley and Trump were talking about, remember the whole credit card, 10% interest rate maximum.
Yep.
You've heard Hawley's talked about it. Trump hasn't. You know why I think Trump would not go for it? Because he'd know millions of people would lose their credit card, and that could affect the economy and the retail purchases.
Yeah. Right. Yep. I mean, which is exactly what would happen every time the government moves on something like that. Then the credit card companies have to go in and they have to realign basically credit lines. And that's what happened last time. And also what it would do is, you know, I mean, my question would be, and they didn't, of course, walk this through when Josh Holley put it out there, but are you saying, because you can't go out and say a short-term credit, like the payday credit stores, right? Could you go in, or are you going to try and go in and cap those too? Because then if you do that, now you're getting away from credit cards and you're going outside into a broader limiting interest altogether. Well, if we're going to do that, why don't we limit the interest on mortgages, on car loans, and populists would scream, yeah. But populists would also be walking.
Well,
and renting.
The reason is they can do it for banks because they're federally regulated. I think that's what keeps them from doing it for payday loans.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right, payday loans aren't federally. So they couldn't come in and do it because it's not the federal regulation is what makes it so they could do it for banks.
Well, but if you're going to go down the road of the consumer level credit, then essentially, why not try and push for that across the board?
Oh, yeah,
other
would
regulations that rein that stuff in. Remember, the Democrats went nuts when the payday loan stores started popping up everywhere. And why did they pop up everywhere? Because credit lines were going away as a result of Congress coming in and intervening in that.
The credit card bill of rights, what was it? If memory serves me right, 8 million people lost their credit cards? And only had access to payday loans at that particular point.
Right.
And so remember, Trump jumped on that when Hawley was on that big time. So I would look at it and say, well, Trump probably wouldn't go for that. And then, they're concerned about economic growth. Trump was asked about it yesterday. He said, well, everything is relating to the Biden administration. We had said for the first quarter, yeah, you can make that case, even though you did have for economic growth, you did have tariffs and other things that came into play. Now you've got concern. The administration is really high up. There's no recession. No recession. I got a couple of emails. There's no recession. There's no recession because of the tariffs. Well, we never made that claim to begin with. What we've always said is, with China, we believe that tariffs are justifiable. Anybody who's involved in unfair trading practices, you can make that case. What we've always said is we just want honesty on it. When you raise the cost of doing business, you do one of three things or a combination of them. You put inflationary pressure, you put profit pressure, and you put employment pressure.
Mm-hmm.
All three of those.
Right.
Or a combination, or one, another, or another, a combination, or all of them. It may not get you to a recession
Right.
at that point, or increase the cost. You know, for example, we've had no inflation. Yeah, we've had inflation. It's the inflation rate may be lower, but we always have inflation.
Right.
Yeah, well, inflation or de-inflation.
Yeah.
But you have already seen the Atlanta Fed. We had wondered a couple weeks ago when they were saying, what do you mean this big, beautiful bill is going to be great? We've got a GDP of 4.6%. I looked at you and I go, where in the world is the GDP 4.6%? And they were using the projection from the Atlanta Fed that was up to 4.6% just, 10 days ago? Now it's down to 3.4%.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever you're talking to right now, whichever group, anywhere between 1.5% to 3.4% from the Atlanta Fed is what the projection is for the second quarter.
Right.
Well, if you have, let's split the difference. Let's say you have 2.5% growth. That means for the first half of the year, you've roughly got 1.25% growth for the first 6 months of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to get you where you want to get to in your big, beautiful bill of balancing it. And so everybody's concerned right now with the economic growth part of the economic growth. Where is it going to go? I saw that, what was the number yesterday? That even though it was a little bit lower, it's still in dangerous territory. I forgot which one it was.
Mm.
I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But whatever. But all the economic numbers will be coming out. But everybody's concerned with it. So will you see that happen? Minimum wage? I would doubt it. I don't think Trump wants to go there right now.
Well,
I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
because the complaint has been from the right that you look at these blue areas, blue states that are raising minimum wage over and over again as a result of what? Unions wanting to unionize fast food primarily.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, we saw that in metro areas in those blue states where small business was hurt. Well, we can't afford to do business here because we can't raise the cost of our goods or services to that extent. So we're going to have to move outside of this zone in order to stay in business, or we're just going to have to shut it down. Now, extrapolate that out nationwide. Then California and Oregon get their way. They get their dream. Now, they've already moved on to $20, $25 an hour. You know, this is our concern with people like Josh Holley. Usher it in. Go ahead, kick the door open for California or Oregon.
He's making it clear, as we said, he is a cultural conservative and a fiscal liberal.
Yep.
Extremely fiscally liberal.
Right.
And that's just the reality of who he is, of what he's promoting. It's nothing personal. It's simply where he is and what he has told us he wants to go on economic issues.
Right.
That would have made you a few years, just a decade ago, get this liberal socialist out of here.
Yeah.
From the Republicans. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, it's again where the Republican Party was on things like minimum wage, on things like price capping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are things that Josh Holley believes in.
And finally, over 2.1 million Americans have dropped out of college without earning a degree, a troubling trend that raises concerns about whether universities are prioritizing politics over academic achievement. This is from campusreform.org. A June 4th report from the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center found that college non-completers rose by 2.2% in the past year, citing a lack of direction, student debt, and disillusionment with the value of a degree. Many students are leaving school without finishing. Inside Higher Ed highlighted that a student's, quote, sense of purpose plays a major role in retention instead of addressing these foundational issues like affordability, job readiness, and clear economic pathways. Many institutions have ramped up investments in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let me see. The campus reform has extensively covered the explosion of DEI efforts across higher education. Some universities now employ more DEI officers than history professors. These bureaucracies often mandate ideological trainings, revise general education courses to reflect political priorities, and fund identity-based events, all without clear evidence that they improve student success or retention. I think they do the opposite, by the way.
Wow.
The president of the James G. Martin Center for Academic Renewal told Campus Reform that the drop in enrollment reflects universities abandoning their academic missions. When universities stray from their academic mission, students, parents, and the public start to question the value of a university education. Politicalization has significantly eroded public trust. Going forward, university should be laser focused on their academic endeavors in order to attract and retain students and regain the public's confidence. Critics argue, that would include us, the universities are failing to provide students with marketable skills while increasingly requiring politicized coursework, and that's true. So there you go. We'll see what happens. We knew this was going to happen. It just got to the point, and with the whole college loan thing too, colleges keep going up in price. Eventually, the public's going to say, "What is the return on our investment?" That's what economics teaches you.
Yep. Yeah.
It's supply and demand.
Yep.
You look at it and it's like, I'm not going to throw money down the toilet. What am I getting for this? And it takes a few years to do it, but I can imagine families of today. The oldest son or daughter goes to college, gets nothing out of it. The younger ones say, well, that's not the path I'm going to go on.
The thing is that it's a fairly quiet process, right? Of families during the high school years, along with a student, deciding, all right, what are we looking at? You get into your sophomore, junior year. That's when you're, because the parents understand, look, time goes by quickly. We've got to decide which direction we're going to go. And when it happens, when the decision is made, it's often very quiet. I've got 3 grandchildren now in college. And I found out the other day one of my granddaughters is changing directions. And I thought, ooh, that's going to require a lot more school. And I thought to myself, well, that's great, though. But it was a decision that goes back. She made it like a couple of months ago. It just happened that I wasn't in the stream of communication. But that's my whole point, that it often happens it's just a quiet decision and then it's made. And then, so we won't see this play out as a trend until it's in the rear view. And I think I suspect it's happening more and more based on the numbers that we're seeing.
The numbers are showing it's happening. Yeah.
And the question will be, okay, where are they going? And I saw a CEO the other day. This is a high-tech CEO. I put 0 credibility into your degree, mainly because he doesn't have one. There's another thing. More and more CEOs and leaders and innovators that don't have a degree but have an education, they know things, and they clearly know how to get things done. They're looking for people who can get things done.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You're just talking about that one CEO that says he doesn't prioritize if you have a college education.
Yeah, it's he said mainly because I don't have one, and he said he's looking for people that can come in and solve issues that because intelligence isn't measured by what you know necessarily. It's your ability to find it, to find the answers. And I thought it was an interesting article, but how many CEOs are in that same boat?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.